Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and thanks for joining me today. You know, getting inspiration sometimes is tough. Sometimes one little thing sets you off and gives you an idea, and sometimes one idea leads to another. And this is one of those times. I was inspired to try doing some stamped and hand-painted bags. So I'll put a link to this video because this was a video that I already did. But I loved that. I loved the look of it. And I decided, okay, maybe that would be cool on a t-shirt. And rather than using the paint markers, because I'm going to be doing it on t-shirt fabric, and I think that that would be tougher on this because it would be hard with the pen to not be catching on the fabric. So I want to paint this. So we're going to be doing something kind of like that. I thrifted this, so if I really mess it up badly, no worries. And if I don't mess it up, then I'll wear it. So the difference with this is that I am definitely going to be bagging it up, meaning I'm going to take a clear bag. You could use a black bag, you could use any kind of plastic that you got going, but I am going to layer it in between the front and back of my fabric because I'm going to be using a lot more. I'm going to be using water on this to water down paints, and I don't want it going through to the back. So I will have to leave this in while it dries, and we'll get that going, okay? I'm going to, last time I used the chrysanthemum stamp by IOD, I'm gonna be using the peony stamp because it's not as detailed. So it's got bigger surfaces for painting in. So there's that. And really, it just comes down to starting to work the layout of this. Now, with all things, because I'm probably going to be layering leaves either on top or behind or those kinds of things, I do want to get a bit of the design out. And I'm just kind of looking at this from the standpoint of, you know what? As long as I'm doing it, I might as well put a lot of stuff on there. So, oh, I haven't used the big peony before. So these stamps have already been treated, which means I had taken, when they were brand new, I took a sanding block to them, just lightly, but to create a little bit of oomph on them. Okay, it's not like they don't have oomph galore. All right, so what I want to do is just kind of take my big florals first and just kind of lay them out where I would maybe want them to go. And there's a couple of little buds as well that I think would be awesome. Okay, I might as well pull the leaves off while I'm at it. I do have the masks with these, and I will be having to use those. So as this one is coming out this way, this one could be overlapped a little. Have them maybe all kind of working up toward. Did I not have two? Oh, here it is. I'm going, didn't I have two of those? All right, so you can, this is overlapping each other. So I'm gonna have to decide which one's on top, which one's on the bottom. And then we'll work the leaves in. So the leaves I'm going to worry about afterward because I can mask So when I'm talking about masking, what I'm talking about are these. Now, the new masks from IOD actually come printed with the picture. These ones are the old ones, so they say P on it, so I know it goes to the peony stamp. And this is just a little more painful to use because you don't know which is the top and the bottom and all that. So that's that guy. I'm gonna need the big one. I think that what I'll do is I'll stamp this guy first. So I'm gonna pull you in overhead so that you can see a little bit what I'm talking about when I'm talking about masks. And we'll take it from there. Okay, so even with this layout, you can see that ultimately I'm gonna be overlapping this a little bit. This one actually will come this way. I've got these face up right now. So I want that one curving, so I'll have this one here instead. But I'm gonna get the big guy laid down first. So I don't wanna stamp it. Let me get my clear backing paper because I don't want to stamp it right on my t-shirt in case I'm going over top. Now, what I did do when I first started getting this stuff all ready was I juiced up my ink pad, and I'm using the IOD ink in black, just so I had time to be able to soak into my pad. And when we're doing this on fabric, we want to have this fairly juicy. We want it to be fairly inked up because we need the fabric to absorb this a little bit. All right, first one always makes me nervous. I'm gonna take it off the plastic so that I can maneuver it as best I can. And I don't want to move it now, but I do want to go around all the lines and kind of get them pushed in so that ink sinks into my fabric. And here's where I actually have this off to the side for a different project. But you could take, you know, a block and kind of press it on to try and get an even look. And moment of truth. Okay, not bad. Put that off to the side for cleaning. And this one, I think that I'd like to have kind of coming across it. So here's where I need, that's not the right one. Where's the big guy? So here's where I need the big mask. And what we're in essence doing, and so here's the problem with these as they are, is that you have to keep turning them until you find how they match up. And if they're not matching up, then flip them over because they're probably sitting a different way. You look like you would go there. I tend to try and look for some kind of defining element like that. All right, so what this does is this covers up my stamped lines so that when I go to lay this over top, this section that overlaps it will stamp onto my mask and not over top of my design element. So let me get this inked up and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. a lot of edging there. Let me have this come right here. So I just want to stamp it down. Get it nice and even. Whoops. And then pull it up. And you can see here, if I didn't have that mask on, that kind of muddying of the patterns would happen on my element. But because I had it, now it looks like this flower is growing over top of this one. And that's the beauty of the masks. And I'm gonna hang on to this one because I may have some leaves coming out from underneath it. In the meantime, I can go ahead and get these stamped, and then we'll work the leaves around it. So you see how it works. So the idea now is let me get all of my elements on there. And then we'll come back and start our painting. This next section, the camera went totally wonky and we have weird light flickers. So let me just kind of walk you through. I cut out a lot of this, but in essence what I'm doing is I'm taking acrylic paints and I am taking DIY liquid patina and I am diluting them. So rather than diluting them with water, I'm using the liquid patina to be able to dilute them, to be able to kind of like water them down, loosen them up a lot so that it'd be much easier to be able to paint. And here you see me starting to be able to paint in my florals. Now, at first I was very cautious about painting kind of within the lines until I realized that my paint is now translucent enough that I could still see the lines through it. So I was able to go much faster and just be able to paint kind of the surface of all of my florals. And I didn't worry about adding in any of my second color until the first was done. All right. Now that I've got my flowers done, you can see they just look kind of flat and uninteresting. This little pot, I'll just see if you're seeing what I can see. This has just got my top coat on it. Okay, so this is just plain top coat. And what I'm looking at is maybe taking a bit of my base color and a tiny bit of brown. I just want to lighten it up a little bit and maybe get, because the brown was too harsh, as you can see, goes pretty far. And just deepen that out a little bit. And just to add in a little bit of shadowing here and there. So just a little bit in those dark areas just to create a little bit of contrast in there so that not everything is looking so flat, that we can see a little bit of the turns, right? Where the petals have kind of folded in on themselves. And that's where with these patterns, when we get a lot of that striping, that's really what's happening. And it gives us the opportunity to add in a little bit of that shading. So I'm going to add in some of the shading that way. Then I am also going to, let me get another brush here. I'm going to be adding in a little bit of this other color. I have way too much of that. But I'm going to take it and kind of highlight just in some of those areas of the petals too. And I get that it's kind of subtle, but it's going to ultimately make it have a little bit more dimension than just the plain orange, right? So that we get a little bit of a contrast happening here and there. So I'm going to add that in, and then with another little brush, where's another little brush? I'm going to take some of my lighter color and I'm going to start highlighting some of the the ends. Oh, I really need some of that top coat in there. So I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of that to soften the tips of some of those petals. And then we'll have to wait till tomorrow to try and see what we can do with any of our leaves, because I'm at the end of my day. But you can see we're starting to create a little bit more definition and distinction. So those three things, I'm taking a little bit of my darker shading of the brown, and I'm going into some of those crevices to just add a little bit of depth here and there to kind of show where the petals sort of fold in on themselves. We get a little bit of darkness happening in there. We'll add a little bit of that brighter orange just to give it a little more of a pop. And then we'll do some of the lighter highlighting. The last step with this is now I'm taking my fabric markers and I'm just adding a little bit of dimension. You can see this one is just all paint, and this one has some of the fabric marker done. So I'm taking this brighter orange and I'm going over just a little bit here and there to give a little bit more detail to my petals. And then I have a little bit of a brighter color that I'm just using here and there, very small places. You can see a little bit in the center, just to kind of brighten up some of the little elements, maybe a little highlight here and there on the tips. So nothing too major with this, and certainly not everywhere, but just a bit is helping make it pop. And then instead of a black, I'm using a bit of a gray, and just to not outline everything, although you certainly could. So if you wanted, you could outline everything. I'm focusing a little bit more on the dark spaces. So this is the finished t-shirt. Now, I'm saying finished because I'm finished painting it. I'm gonna leave this to finally dry fully. So to fully dry, I'm gonna leave it overnight. So I'm taking it back home with me. I'm showing it to you now so you can see. I love it. You can see how just a little bit of those fabric markers, and these were fabric markers that I picked up on Amazon. I'll drop in the link. I don't think that there's anything particularly special about it beyond I got 30 colors and they've worked really well. Putting them over top of the paint. So again, using the paint as the base meant I could cover tons of territory. There's no way with the markers that I'd be able to get that kind of coverage. But what they did do is they helped crisp up certain areas and give a little bit more intensity. So once this is fully dry, I will heat set it. I will take a dry, very hot iron. I will cover this with parchment paper and I will heat set it. Then I'll let it fully cool, and then I'm going to put it through the wash. Then I'll iron it. And I will show you what it looks like then. So we'll see how it holds up. So I'm hoping that liquid patina did the trick and that this is all gonna look awesome, but I'm showing it to you now so you see what it looks like now, and then we'll see what it looks like then. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is the trick, because I'm kind of digging the look of it. I kind of like it. It's pretty nice. So I wasn't too fond of it before the markers kind of crisped it up and intensified it a little bit. And you can see that I used a little bit to kind of go up over the flowers a little bit, you know, over those buds to make it look like that green was kind of pulling into it. The variation on these, meaning that we've got more than one color, we've got some of the highlights going, I think also makes a huge difference, that they're not just one flat color. So plan for that. Because these are acrylics, I have them drying on my little tray, but know that once they start to dry, this paint is just going to, because this is just like a little melamine tray, this paint, well, that's not quite dry, but it'll just peel right off and I'll be able to clean this up. So I don't agonize over it in the wet stage. I just leave it to dry and then clean off my tray. Fingers crossed that the washing works. I'll be back as soon as it's done. I wanted to close out this video showing you the t-shirt after a wash. So this has been through the washer. It was heat set, put through the washer, put through a dryer, and it is all still intact. So not only is the paint all there, but those fabric markers, those little marks are still all there. Lasted through the washing machine just fine. Now, 20 washes from now, is it going to be slightly faded? You know what? Probably no more so than any other heavily patterned t-shirt and the wear. It's pretty flexible. It's not crisp or bendy. I mean, you can feel the change in the texture from the fabric to the painted area, as you would expect, but it has washed up just fine. And that was an important thing for me. I wanted to make sure that using the DIY liquid patina helped increase the wearability and the longevity of the product. That seemed to do the trick better than I've experienced with just acrylic paint on its own. This also would work great with extending, again, the functionality of other paints too. So don't ask me, I haven't tested it out with tons of other polyacrylic products or anything. I had heard that the liquid patina from DIY was fantastic for this. I have it on the shelf here. I love the product for other uses. Why not just add one more use to it? So I'm sticking with this because it worked great. You can test other products yourself, sorry. Let me know what you think. I think that doing the stamps with this and doing some of the hand painting, adding some of the details in with the fabric markers, gave it a little bit more detail than I was able to get just specifically with the paint. But you know what? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you experience if you give it a try. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.